Season 3 Reloaded has just gone live and there's some major updates to Warzone, including new perk, new gun, major gameplay updates, and various new game modes too. Starting off right at the top, there's a new playlist out, which will show us the next sort of 5 weeks or so. So you can see that on screen now, but we're not going to dive into that in too much detail as we'll cover off some of it later on. So diving right into the new game mode, it is called Champions of Caldera. Now, this seems like a bit of an odd one, as it doesn't seem like it's drastically changed from the base Battle Royale. The new mode will feature 150 players in a single, continuously closing circle in a Battle Royale style fight for survival. All operators will drop in with their custom loadout, a gas mask, and a single redeploy extraction token. The item pool is slightly different to emphasize equipment not normally found in Caldera, i.e. loadouts and rare weapons. So basically, the main objective with the floor loot is going to be getting cash and visit the upgraded buy stations, which feature advanced UAVs and even the specialist token for a hefty fee. Now, they've summarized some of the gameplay updates. They've added some more counters to various powerful mechanics in the game. Some of them I really don't agree with. More movement into the game to allow you to get away from enemies a little bit better. Just ultimately more playtime, so you're going to be spending less time spectating your teammates. So, moving on to some of the counterplay that they're talking about. We're going to be first of all looking at the new perk, Serpentine. What the Serpentine perk does is make you receive 20% less damage when sprinting, which if snipers weren't already dead in the water, this has pretty much put the final nail in the coffin. Just sounds like a really weird thing for them to add, because ultimately it's encouraging running away from fights, as this sits in perk slot 1. So it's going to take over Quick Fix, EOD, and the rest of the perks that sit there. Like, I'm not sure why they'd bring in a perk that just is pretty much exclusively used at running away. Just seems like a really odd decision to me. So they've updated some of the new lootable perks. So they've not taken any out, they've just added ones in. So they've added Serpentine, Tune Up, Tracker, Hardline, Kill Chain, and EOD. And they've also added a new field upgrade, the radar jammer. Like in multiplayer, this will scramble a part of your enemy's minimap, has an effective radius of 125 meters, which is pretty huge if you ask me, and lasts 45 seconds. Now, this can be hacked by players with the engineer perk and can be attached to vehicles to become mobile. This could be quite interesting, especially towards the end circle, to just stop your enemies having vision of their minimap and, well, map in general. I can imagine this being quite interesting, and then sticking it on a vehicle as well could be interesting as well, but I'm not really sure it's going to become that meta, to be honest with you. And the last bit on the counterplay, they've added new lootable loadout drop markers. Now, it's a really rare chance that you're actually going to find one of these loadout drop markers, so basically a loadout for yourselves. The reason they said that they've added this is once players have been to the Gulag, it can be quite challenging to get back into standing a chance of winning the game, because A, you don't have your loadout, and B, everyone else does. So they just wanted to add like a bit of a one-off chance that you're going to find a loadout, which is cool. Fair enough. I don't see it being that overpowered, if I'm honest with you. So yeah, decent addition. And the last bit on the counterplay, they sort of teased this bit at the start of Season 3, but they've added the high-value loot zones, which is straight out the Apex playbook. You're going to be able to open your minimap and see these quite obviously, but they'll add a $ next to these areas, which just means you're going to find better loot in those areas. So yeah, it will be quite highly contested zones, so the more sweaty players are probably going to be landing there. If you are looking for a bit of a quieter game, stay away from those zones. Now moving on to the underground transit systems. They've added a new fast travel system with 14 points of access, and you can find these points on your minimap, but you can see the big map of it now on your screen. They did have loads of this in Verdansk, including an underground train system, and then followed up by Red Doors when Cold War was part of the game. So definitely think it's interesting. I think it's good for map rotations. Not sure it's really needed now we've got the redeploy balloons, but I guess, you know, it's not going to impact the game in a negative way. Now moving on to the section that they've called movement. There's now a new lootable speed boost power up in Caldera. So if you've played Clash, you can just sometimes find these speed boost power ups from when you kill someone. It's exactly as it says on the tin, gives you a speed boost. They're also adding a new occupation scan public event to Rebirth Island. Not sure why they put this in the movement section, but hey, we'll move on. They've also increased the downed movement speed, so when you get downed you can just move a little bit quicker, as it was pretty slow, to be honest. They've also adjusted the stims, which is probably a good thing. So basically you're just able to slide too far. They've kind of nerfed that into the ground a bit. And also if you receive weapon damage, it says weapon damage. I don't know if this is expanded to all damage, but if you receive weapon damage, it stops the healing effect, which is actually a pretty good one. It just means that if you're getting shot and you're trying to run away from people and chuck a stimmy in, it's not going to give you full health again. To be honest, these stims were pretty overpowered, and now it's kind of brought them in line a little bit, which is quite good. Now, moving on to the playtime bit that they've called it. It's quite an interesting section, actually. So they've added a new lootable Gulag entry token. So this is a new lootable item that allows players to re-enter the Gulag upon death. You'll find a token and it'll give you a Gulag again, which is a pretty interesting concept, and I actually quite like it. Just means you're going to spend less time spectating your teammates. This doesn't take away from the fact that you'll still have one entry into Gulag off the rip. So, if you just died straight away, you're still going to have the entry into the Gulag. They've also added something quite similar. So, a redeploy extraction token. This is like a rebirth thing. So, basically, when you die, you respawn back in within a set amount of time. So again, quite interesting. They've also made self-revives a lot more easy to find on general loot, which is again pretty interesting and pretty good. Now, there's something here that they've added that I really don't agree with, and they've reduced the player count on Caldera to 120. Now, the reasoning for this is because they've added all these extra ways that you can get back into the game. But to be honest, Caldera Resurgence was my favorite game mode because it was more hectic. And I feel like they've taken away from the pacing that everyone's quite liking, being a lot more fast-paced, just nerfed it. So they've added all these really positive things, and they've kind of taken away from it by taking 30 people out of the game, which I don't agree with. But hey, we'll see how it plays out. Some more adjustments as well. They've decreased the buyback cost as well. So it was 4K and now it's 3K to buy back. They've also adjusted the death tax. So as opposed to the 80-20 thing we'd been seeing, so, you've been dying and they'd been taking away 80% of it and leaving you with 20%. We're now seeing about a 50-50. So basically, when you come back from Gulag, you're going to have 50% of your cash, which is a lot better, I think. They've also added some really interesting quality of life improvements. As you can see on the screen now, they've updated the HUD. So basically, you can see how many plates your teammates have got. You can see how much cash they've got individually in more detail. If they've got gas masks, self-revives, if they've got a kill streak, so either like a precision airstrike or a UAV. So all some really interesting bits and pieces there. They've updated audio, or footstep audio to be precise. They've said that it should just be more notable going forwards and shouldn't be drowned out as much, so it should just basically take priority, which is how it definitely should be. They've also reduced the ranged weapon melee damage, so it takes 4 successive hits as opposed to 3 to kill your enemies going forwards, which is a great change. But to be honest, I think it should be about 5 or 6, because if you can hit someone quicker than you can kill them with bullets, yeah. But hey, they've also addressed the slide camera lock. So do you know when you're sliding along and you can't seem to be changing where you're looking? They've addressed that. So hopefully that should become a little bit less of a bugbear going forwards. They've also changed the incoming kill streak warning banner, so it's a little bit less obstructive going forwards. So it should just be just below the weapon reticle to prevent visual obstruction. They've also added buyback player prioritization. So do you know when you go to the buy station and your teammate's like third down on the list that's dead and needs buying back, and you need to hit it really quick and you have to spend time going through it? They've changed that. So basically, if they're dead, they're going to be at the top, which is a good quality of life change. They've also updated weapon trade stations. So perk satchels are added to epic and legendary and fire sale trades. They've also adjusted the ghost perk, reduced the player movement speed threshold to trigger the perk, which is good. But to be honest, it's a pretty much nothing perk now as no one's really running it. Also, with the spawn protection value adjusted, so players with a visible shield will take 25% reduced damage. That is for Rebirth Island. I don't know why they've not separated it out, to be honest. And they're also going to be changing the armored truck health and turret damage, etc. But that's going to be later on in season, so we're not going to cover that off now. And then just the other adjustments that they've made. They've buffed the frag grenades by giving them a 25% damage increase, which I expect is to bring them where they wanted them before they made the health changes. But I think that's really good. I thought frag grenades were probably the best option there anyway, so this has really, really cemented that down for me. And then they've buffed throwing knives, giving them a 20% damage increase as well, and hits to the upper torso and head will count as a one-shot down. Claymore damage has been increased by 20%, along with proximity mines, their damage has been increased by 25%, and then Semtexes have had their damage increased by 5% as well. And they've also buffed the health increase from the 100 to 150 across all the game modes. This was already in Caldera, so if you're stressing that they're adding more health to Caldera, they're not. It's just things like Rebirth Island and things like that. They've also adjusted the ground loot, as they tend to do, and then common weapons now have 3 attachments up from 2, and then uncommon have 5 up from 4. And they've also updated the Gulag loadouts. So let's hope for a little bit more balance there. They've also done loads of bug fixes, as you can see on screen now. And then they've also added a new weapon, the H4 Blixen submachine gun. It's a hard-hitting SMG that offers mobility and accuracy in medium-range engagements. This is unlocked by getting 3 slide kills in a single match 15 times. So it shouldn't be too difficult to unlock actually, guys. And now looking at some of the nerfs and buffs, you can see a lot of it on screen now, but notably they've nerfed the AK-47 Cold War Edition, the Farah as well. They have buffed the bar to the point where I think it's actually going to become meta going forwards. So really keep an eye out on this one, guys. They've buffed the bullet velocity on the Cooper carbine, which was needed, and then buffed the AS-44 as well, but nothing notable. Nerfed the C58, AMAX and XM4, which to be honest, I don't know why they've done the C58 because it wasn't really used that much, but the XM4 and AMAX I agree with. They've buffed the Nikita AVT, the Itra Burst, the Vargo 52, the NZ41 and the Volk. Now again, I think the NZ41 might actually become meta going forwards here, guys. I'd be surprised if we've not already got a Mastercraft bundle in the store or if they've got one coming out. So yeah, I think this one's going to be meta going forwards. And then the nerfs and buff to snipers. The HDR, Pellington and ZRG and AX50 have all been nerfed. Notably the bullet velocity bar the Pellington, where they've just nerfed the one-shot capability by about 5 meters. I don't know why they're nerfing guns like that because they're not being used anyway. They've buffed the Dragunov, but no one's using it, so I don't know why they've bothered. And they haven't bothered in such a long time, so just leave it alone. There's no point. They've buffed the Kar 98K, the Free in Line, Rytec AMR, Type 99, M82, and the Gorenko, which yeah, are all needed. But again, I think only the Free in Line is going to be the useful one, maybe the Gorenko, but the rest of them are useless snipers due to the nerfs and, you know, Serpentine. So none of them are going to be that useful going forwards. And now looking at the shotguns and SMGs, they've nerfed the following shotguns by reducing their damage: the Street Sweeper, the Gallo, Jack 1, Origin 12, R90 and the Gracie Auto. They have buffed the combat shotgun, but it's garbage, so it's still not going to be used going forwards. They've nerfed the OTS 9 and the Owen gun. To be honest, these guys were the king of the meta for such a long time. It was probably needed. And they've also nerfed the Milano. That's probably to stop it being used as an assault rifle type weapon. So yeah, I agree with that. They've nerfed and buffed the Lapper, so probably just bring it in line a little bit. They've buffed the Armaguerra, nerfed the AUG, the Modern Warfare one that is, not the Cold War one, not the burst one, so the SMG AUG, and nerfed and slightly buffed the Wellgun, so that's interesting. Buffed the UGR as well. Now looking at pistols and tacticals, they've buffed the 1911 Vanguard Edition pistol, buffed the Klauser and the Rat, but nerfed the DMRT. They've really buffed the hell out of the machine pistol, which to be honest, this thing was beyond useless. I think it had a time to kill of about 1.1 seconds, so you didn't want to be touching it. They've also buffed the Panzerfaust and the M1 Garand, and then changed some EA attachments, so the Akimbo perk now reduces damage by 10%. They've also changed the MX silencer, so bullet velocity is now increased by 15% as opposed to 10%, which is a good change. And the F8 stabilizer, which no one uses anyway, but they've increased the damage range for it. And then with the SVT, they've buffed it, but I don't see it being that useful either. And they've buffed the M1916, so the new tactical rifle. Why they've done this, I don't know, because it was pretty overpowered in solos anyway. It'll be interesting going forwards, guys. Well, that about wraps up all the changes that they've done in Season 3 Reloaded. Overall, some really interesting stuff. Let's hope the Footsteps, that's my main takeaway from this, has been sorted. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.